Hey, what's up, you amazing hackers? I hope you're all doing well today. So, you clicked on this video because you thought you wanted some burp pro tips. Well, let me blow your mind with some of these amazing tips that I've picked up over the few months that I've been hunting. Let's get going, shall we? Now, the first thing, it always starts with your target, getting your scope set up properly. That's number one for me. I always use my advanced scope control because in here, this allows me to enable regular expressions for my scope. And in here, this is really important for me because if you don't allow this, any literal value that will be put in here will be allowed as in scope, but if you have some things that are not exactly like you typed them in here, they're not going to be accepted. So that's why I use regular expressions. I enter my hostname in here, and anything that's out of scope in the out of scope section, I'll exclude that from my scope. So I'll specifically not be hunting for that. That's important for me because it gives me the peace of mind that I won't have to check if the thing I'm hunting on is in scope or out of scope. Now, that's it for the target scope tab. We also have a sitemap, and in here, Burp Portswigger has given us some amazing tools. We have this really cool filter that took me quite a while to find. If you guys know about this, let me know in the comments below, because for me it took me quite a while. If you click this filter text up here, you can see a nice pop-up box, and in here we have some really cool options for filtering, guys. We can show only the parameterized requests, which is an important one that I usually check. I don't really care about static requests. I want interactive websites, and those usually have parameters, so I show only the parameterized requests. Then I also usually only show in-scope items, but if I have my scope set up correctly, that shouldn't be a problem. It should only be logging in-scope items anyway. Now I can also put up a filter if I would want to. Again, I will have to click the regular expressions checkbox if I want to enable that. I can also filter by MIME type. Say for example, I don't want to see any scripts anymore. I can disable this in here. I can also filter by status code if I don't care about 500 server errors, for example, and I don't care about redirections if I only want to see my 200 OK status codes. That's possible as well, and I can hide empty folders. Now, one cool thing I can also do is only show these specific file extensions that I type in here, or hide the ones that I type in here. And I can also only show highlighted or commented items. Now that's something we'll look into later. We can note our items as we are making them. If you want to apply that filter, just click anywhere outside of the box and it will automatically start applying that filter. Now, if we move on to the proxy tab, this is a really cool tab. I love this. We have our HTTP history, and we also have that same filter functionality in here. But here we can also filter by port, which is another extra option that we have. And we also have a WebSockets history in here. Now guys, let me tell you, WebSockets is something amazing. It's just another protocol like HTTP. And what WebSockets is it allows you to communicate with the server, and it doesn't have any of the conventional security protocols that HTTP has baked into them. Which means that any developer who wants to work with WebSockets will have to develop a lot of these security layers themselves. This allows a lot of room for business logic vulnerabilities. So if you're ever testing a website and your requests are not showing up in the HTTP history, it's always worth having a look in the WebSocket history. These things are very under-researched in my opinion, and that's why they're very worth getting checked out. Now, on to the next topic, which will be the options in here. You can have several options which we can enable to give us another edge over other hunters. And in here, if we scroll down a little bit, we can see the response modifications. Now, this is really cool, these response modifications. I always click on unhide hidden form fields because, of course, they are hidden for a reason and I want to know why. And I prominently highlight those unhidden fields. What that will do is it will draw a big red square around those fields, and then I will easily notice what's going on. I'll enable the disable form fields as well, and I'll remove any input field length limits, and I'll also remove any JavaScript form validation. I don't care about any front-end validation. As a hacker, I'm talking to an API. I am not talking to a front-end system. So this will make life a lot easier for me. And then if I scroll down a little bit more, I also have match and replace options. And what this will do is it will allow me to match and replace any value in the requests that I'm sending or the responses that I'm receiving, and it will replace those values with the ones that I indicate. Like I have a few here ready. For example, this one would be for testing CSRF. The type indicates where the replacement needs to take place. So in this case, that would be the CSRF body, for example, if my CSRF parameter is in the body, of course. And then I match the CSRF value that I have and I replace it with 1, for example, or with an empty value, or I leave it empty to replace it with nothing. And I click the regular expression match box, and whenever I'm clicking around on my application right now, if I am coming across a functionality that requires me to submit a CSRF token as well, it will automatically be replaced by an empty value. And that means that we should get a lot of errors popping up if we're testing CSRF functionality. If we don't see those errors popping up, that means that there's something wrong with the CSRF functionality on the server, and we might have a vulnerability on our hands. Now guys, I know CSRF vulnerabilities are not as impactful as they can be, as other vulnerabilities, for example. But that doesn't mean I don't look for them. I'll specifically look for them and I'll keep them at hand. They can be used to elevate other vulnerabilities. Like for example, if you find a self-cross-site scripting, if you can elevate that using CSRF, you have a stored cross-site scripting on your hands, which is a lot worse than a self-cross-site scripting, of course. Now, some other funky things you can do with this, for example, is you can replace any false value to true, or you can do some things like if you want to change things from the URL, you can do this by changing stuff in the request header. For example, if you want to change the identifier of the user, you can do this, and we can replace it with the identifier of a different user, for example, like this. So these are some of the things that we can do with the match and replace. We also have auto repeater for that. Auto repeater is a different thing that does about the same. It will replace values, but what auto repeater does extra is it will repeat any requests that we make, and it will either, depending on where we make those replacements, make them in the base request or in the request that is copied. So again, if we make any request, if we click a button, auto repeater will repeat the request that's being made. And if we add a base replacement in here, it's going to make a replacement in the base request. If we add a normal replacement in here, it's going to make a replacement in the copied request. That's important to know. You'll mostly be using the replacements, because if you use the normal replacements to test, for example, for a CSRF value, you'll be getting a lot of errors when you're clicking around. While on the other hand, if you use the replacements, you won't be, and you should be getting, well, what this basically does, as you can see in here, you'll see the original response length, the response length, and the difference in those two. The difference should be different from 0, because if the difference is 0, that means that the requests are exactly the same. So the requests should not be exactly the same in most cases. It really depends on what you're testing. Besides all of this, we can also add conditions. And here we choose our Boolean operator. We want to choose and or. It depends on what we want to do. Say, for example, we only want to capture requests that come from the Burp spider. We can say send from tool in here, and we can say spider. And then if we add this, it will only send requests from the tool spider. Now, this is a really cool tool. I love this, but it won't work for everybody. We also have authorize, Now there are enough videos about Authorize on my channel. If you guys haven't seen them before, I'll pop up one of those fancy cards on top of the screen right now, and I'll also put a link in the video description for my Authorize videos. And then one last thing I wanted to show you guys is the extender. If you guys look at the extensions that I have in here, I also have PwnFox, which I would like to thank Jojo very much for. He's a subscriber of mine who bought some coaching sessions. By the way, if you guys are interested in those coaching sessions, link will be in the description below. I can teach you how I hunt. I can teach you how to set up a tool. I can teach you how to set up a mobile testing lab for Android in the style of these videos. So if you're interested in that, link in the description below. Each coaching session comes with a PDF and also a recording for your viewing pleasures. Now, PwnFox is a really cool tool. You guys can install the Firefox extension for this, and you can install it in Burp. You need to download it from GitHub, and then in here you can click add and you can select your Java file. In this case, we don't want to do that. And then when you do have PwnFox installed in Firefox, you can click it, click the enable checkbox, and then you'll have the option to open a new container, which is basically going to isolate all cookies and session variables into a new container for you, and it's going to grab the color that you select. So if you click the red button, it will create a new tab for you in Firefox, which will get a red color, and it will be completely containerized from all of the other requests. That's handy because in Burp, if we then go to our proxy HTTP history, in here all of the requests that come from that specific Firefox tab will also have the same color, which is really interesting. I love testing like this. It makes separating the requests so much easier, guys. It's incredible. Now, onto the extender again real quick. When you guys are installing Authorize, you'll see in the Web Store that this install button will not be immediately available. Instead, it will say download Jython. What you'll have to do is click that button, download the Jython standalone server jar file, and then you can click on the Options tab, and in here in the Python environment, you can click the location of the Jython standalone jar file, and you can select the file that you just downloaded. Then if you restart Burp, that should become available to install Authorize. I hope you guys enjoyed this video. I really hope that this helps you get 50,000 vulnerabilities, and I hope that none of them is a duplicate. Good luck hunting, you amazing hackers, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye bye, you amazing hackers.